So I'm Michelle, and I've been sharing Tantra for about 16 years now. And I specialise in supporting people with sexual trauma and intimacy. But today, after a request was put up with Inspiring Talks, I'm going to talk about the what's and how's of Tantric sex. And so I thought I'd start with a little story about a couple that came to me, and they were in their 70s, I think about 71. And the woman had the most beautiful, naughty twinkle in her eyes that I've ever seen. And she put her hand on my knee and she said, "We have sex every day." And she looked so youthful and vibrant. She was just incredible, and their relationship was incredible. So there's probably a bit of panic here, thinking sex every day. I can't possibly imagine that that is possible. But it's not what we would consider sex, as we know sex, the physicalities of sex. So what they were doing every morning was what they called plugging in. So he would enter her soft, and it was important to them as in brushing their teeth. And so then from the rest of the day, their whole day was lived in complete harmony, in complete sync with each other, because they've taken that time in the morning to harmonize their energy, to plug into each other. So they were working through life as a union rather than a separate man and woman. And they never argued, and they had the most healthiest and beautiful relationship I've ever seen, and that's manageable in their 70s. So when we Google tantric sex, we have a lot of bullshit that comes up, and it frustrates me a little because it's still all about performance. It's still all about technique. It's all still about orgasms and maintaining ejaculation. And because of this, we're missing out on the true flavour of tantric sex and what that can bring into our lives. It expands beyond the bedroom. It nourishes our relationships. It nourishes our body. It nourishes how we share in life. It does so much more than what is happening in the bedroom. So tantric sex doesn't mean that we can go for hours and hours and hours. Of course you can if you want to, but that's one of Sting's doings, which then created this rave that everyone wanted to know tantric sex so they could last hours. Again, it all being about performance. So if I was to suggest to you how to start tantric sex, my first suggestion would be slow down. So as Jem was saying earlier, there's this race that we have, this race to get to a peak, to a destination. We have a goal, and we don't necessarily slow down and be in the moment with our lover to truly be with them. And when I say slow down, you think, okay, I can slow down, but I mean slower than slow. And this is so that we bring an element of presence, which is a very important key in Tantra. But the next step that I would suggest is that this also allows sensation, so that we're able to feel the sensations in our body. Because if we're always going fast, how on earth can we feel what is happening in our body? And are we truly in our body? If we've got a destination and a goal, we're in our head. We're thinking about where we're going to get to and what that's going to be like. Also, if we're not present, we're using our body as a performance. We're not truly in a sensation of that. So we have slow down and to notice the sensations within your body. The next thing I would say is breathe. We're not very good at breathing. I know we think we are because we're all still alive and none of us are blue here. But we don't truly take a breath down into our bellies, down into our root because there's a fear of that. And when we breathe long and slow and deep, we connect with our sexual energy. We connect with that vast bowl of energy here that we just seem to suppress and keep a lid on, that can actually, with our breath, flow up through our body, which is what creates this whole body orgasmic, blissful feeling. So what have I said so far? Slow down, breath, sensation. The next thing is that Tantra brings the heart back into sex. And because of the way Western world is, and it's all about performance and performance pressure, and that we've looked at sex as just the physicalities of it, there's a lot of heart that has gone missing out of sex. And some of that is to do with fear. If we've been hurt, then we've cut away love from sex, because it's less painful for us just to love, or it's less painful for us just to have sex. I mean, we can all have sex, that's easy, but to bring some heart into it is a completely different matter. And this is when Tantra becomes steak and not McDonald's. Because McDonald's, if you think about McDonald's, it's fast food. You have McDonald's, not that I like McDonald's, but you have McDonald's, and maybe an hour later, 45 minutes later, you're hungry. It hasn't satisfied you. And we can be like that with sex. If it's just the physicality of sex, then we can have that urge because we're not truly feeling fulfilled. We're looking for more. Whereas Tantra is the steak of sex. You have steak. I'm a vegetarian. You have steak. And you can thrive off that for hours. And with Tantric sex, you can thrive off that for days, maybe a whole week. There's not this urgency to repeat it again. And that's because there is love in the sex, and there's an energy. You're not making love physically. You're not making love with your head. You're making love with your energy. There's an exchange of energy. So going back to this 70-year-old couple, when he was just plugging into her, and he was soft, he wasn't moving. He was, his lingam was within her yoni, but soft, and they were not moving. They're just breathing together and having this wonderful dance of energy, so that their energy wasn't two separate entities, but a sacred union. And that is what Tantric sex is about. It's not about maintaining ejaculation. Of course, you can learn that. But then again, if you're so focused, oh, I'm not going to come, again, that's an agenda. That's a performance thing. So forget about ejaculation. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. And it's not about striving for these crazy orgasms. The orgasms happen if you're in your body and you allow them. You surrender into them and you relax into them. And that comes from the slowing down, because this energy here that's been so suppressed will organically move. It knows what to do. We don't have to do anything. Tantra says you know how to do sex. Now bloody well be sex. You don't have to do it. Be it. And that's the end of my little talk.